Hello everyone, you're welcome to Meritstop Mentors. This is Python for All, PY for A. In today's video, we will talk about object-oriented programming, part 2. Here we'll be discussing abstraction, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. By abstraction, we simply refers to simplifying complex systems by hiding irrelevant details and focusing on the essential features. This enables programmers to create more understandable, maintainable, and reusable codes. Examples of real-world abstractions include the remote control, which provides an abstraction layer for interacting with an electronic device, the ATM, which provides an abstraction layer for banking transactions, simplifying process of withdrawing, depositing checks, and transferring funds. The car engine, which operates under the hood, providing abstraction layer that allows the driver to focus on the control of the car speed and direction without understanding the intricacies of the engine's mechanics. And lastly, the graphic user interface, okay, which allows user to focus on manipulating, working on their project, opening files, editing files, closing files, without the understanding of the intricacies happening, okay, underneath the hood. So these are just simple examples, few examples of real world abstraction. There are 1,001 examples of that, and that tells you that you can easily uh, create all of these abstractions using the concept of object-oriented programming. The next is encapsulation. This refers to bundling of data or attributes and methods that operate on the data within a class. This concept promotes data hiding and controlled access to the class internal state, ensuring data integrity and preventing intended modifications. There are two access modifiers uh, in, in encapsulation. The first is the public attribute and methods, which are accessible to both the class, accessible from both the class and outside the class. The second is private attributes and methods that are only accessible within the class and not from outside the class. Let's take an example. Here I have a class of school and I've defined my init method, which is a constructor. I'll cell taking department name and staff ID. But inside the init method, I've you know made the department a private attribute where I have a pre-appended double underscore. Likewise, the name, but the staff ID remains a public attribute. What that means is that both department and name can only be accessed within the class and not outside the class. So to do that, to access, be able to access them, okay, I will define two getters, get department and get name, but I decorate them with property so that I don't make a function call on them since they don't take parameters. And then I'll define a top method set name. Here it takes a new parameter name and I will set the name, the new name to the internal, the private name, okay, which is internal to the system, the class. So having done that, we can now define two schools, school one and school two, passing the name, the department, the staff ID, and then we can print out s1.getName. You can see get name. I've not called it. I've not done a function called here because it's already been decorated with the property attribute. So if you run this, it returns mark Scott pointing to Botany, Bullfish pointing to Fishway. Right? We can as well set name and overwrite the existing name, okay, and then see what it gives to us by printing s1.getName again. If we run that, you see it sets it with the new name which are passed in, go deep. If we try to access name directly from the class externally by calling s1 double underscore name, it returns an attribute error telling you that the class has no such attribute. What if we remove the double underscore and try to access again? Same thing, it tells you it has no such attribute. Because name has been hidden as private attribute, not to be accessed from outside the class except internally from the class. That's why this error comes up. Likewise, department. You can also call the school class, okay, instantiate it by passing in the variables and then calling the get name directly on it. In the first instance here, we just assign the school class to the object S1, and then we can call S1 dot get name, S1 to get department. But here we can as well call it directly. If we do this, returns bit fish, and then if we call school department fishery, brought good, and the ID, and we want to access the staff ID, okay, it returns this. You can see that we can access the staff ID directly because it's a public attribute, but the name and department cannot be accessed directly from outside the class except with the use of the two getters, get name and set name. Now I give another example here of a class of book. In this book is just a simple class with just class variables, no constructor and no other method implemented. Now, the idea of showing this is to let you know that you can access class variables with just calling the class name dot the variable or by instantiating the class. So if we come here and do something like this, book.author, what do we have? It returns the name of the author. Likewise, if you decide to instantiate and the class and run, it returns the same results. So you actually need to use this flexibly. How do we use it? When you have a constant that is not changing, that is fixed for the class, you can actually put it as a class variable. Okay, define them before the class constructor, and then you can still call them inside the class by just calling the class name dot that class variable. So that's one good use of class variable. The same thing, John booked or John will return, the result, okay, the variable assignment, which is a fantasy. Okay, next let's talk about inheritance and polymorphism. First, we looked at abstraction and encapsulation, and I gave you two examples. Let's look at inheritance and polymorphism, and also look at an example on that. Inheritance is a fundamental concept in OOP that permits new classes to be created from existing classes. Okay, it enables code reusability and promotes a hierarchical organization of classes based on relationship between them. Now, the idea of code reusability is that when you have a class defined, okay, someone else can inherit from that class, and if there are functionalities or methods that have not been implemented in that class, such a person can implement it without having to break, to break the code, without having to struggle with modifying everything inside the code. Okay, so this gives us a level of flexibility in developing reusable codes, in Python. While polymorphism, on the other hand, refers to how different objects, okay, how different object of different classes, okay, respond to the same method call, okay, in different ways. Polymorphism is achieved through inheritance and method overriding. There are three types of polymorphism. The first is method overriding, and this happens when a subclass redefines a method inherited from its parent class. The second is operator overloading, and this permits different classes to define custom behavior for operators such as plus, minus, the multiplication, and the division. And then the last is the doc typing. This is a dynamic approach to polymorphism where objects are classified based on their ability rather than their heritage. Let me say this here that in inheritance, a class that inherits from the other class is called the subclass or the derived class, while the class that has been inherited is known as the superclass or the parent class. Let's demonstrate this with an example. Here I have a class of animal, okay, and the only method I have in this class, there's no constructor in this class, this is a simple class. I just have a method make sound which does nothing. Now I have three classes of dog, cat, and snake that inherits directly from animal, okay, respectively. And then I modify the make sound. Once I modify this make sound, what I've done here is method overriding. And this is referred to as what? Polymorphism. So I inherit from the class and override the method make sound. And then there's a new method here, feed, that was actually not defined in the class animal. While I passing that method to, I've also implemented polymorphism. Here I have not overridden the method, but I have implemented a new method. Inheritance allows us to do that. So I can add more functionality to the new class. I do the same thing to the class animal, and I do the same thing to the class snake. Then I can call, define an object D, okay, assigned to the class instantiated. I can say D dot feed, and I pass in the food because feed must take in the parameter food, and then D dot make sound. And if we run this, it gives us dog eats bone meal, and the dog makes woof. Likewise, we instantiate the class snake, okay, to the object X, and then S dot make sound and pass in the feed, the food, and then it returns snake makes his, snake eats rodents. Okay, the next we can instantiate the last class, which is cat. Okay, I've taken it in different order, not in that order which I define the class, which also permits you to call your classes whichever way you want to call them. So if we run this, what do we have? Cat makes meow. Okay, I can group the animals together, okay, in a list, and then loop through them and then make a sound like that. And what would that give us? To return the same thing, dog makes wolf, cat makes meow, snake makes hiss. Now, with this, I've been able to demonstrate, okay, in simple terms and clear terms, these properties of object-oriented programming, which is abstraction, encapsulation, okay, encapsulation, inheritance, and polymorphism. In my next video, I will be discussing multiple inheritance and method order resolution of object-oriented programming. In multiple inheritances, I will now be using the standard class where we have the constructors and other method implemented, and then we can now inherit and also what now demonstrate polymorphism using that. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a thumbs up for this video, share this video, and if you're watching and you have not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and ensure that when you subscribe, you click the notification bell to get notified whenever I upload new videos. Until then, I will see you in my next video. Bye.